Hello! So I thought today I would talk a little bit about an upcoming feast that will begin this Saturday, March the 15th at sundown and go through sundown on Sunday, and that is the Feast of Purim. And actually, Purim is the Hebrew word for lots, and it's in remembrance of the Pur, or the lot, that was cast by Haman in the book of Esther to determine the month and day in which the Jewish people were to be killed throughout Persia. And Purim is known as the Feast of Esther, and it commemorates the deliverance of God's people by the hands of Esther and Mordecai. And it's one of the merriest kind of holidays on the Hebrew calendar. Some Jews in America actually refer to it as the Jewish Mardi Gras. But essentially it is commemorating this deliverance of their people. And it's funny because ironically, the lots that were thrown for Israel's destruction actually set the date for this national celebration that still takes place thousands of years later, which is kind of cool. So just to kind of give you an idea of what kind of started it, I'll just read a couple of verses from Esther. If you want to look it up, you can. It's chapter 3, starting in verse 7. It says, "In the first month, which is the month of Nisan, in the 12th year of the king, they cast Pur," that is the lot, "before Haman to determine the day and the month until it fell on the 12th month, which is the month of Adar," which is what we're in now on the Hebrew calendar. "Then Haman said to the king, 'There is a certain people scattered and dispersed among the people in all the provinces of your kingdom. Their laws are different from all other peoples, and they do not keep the king's laws. Therefore it is not fitting for the king to let them remain. If it pleases the king, let a decree be written that they be destroyed, and I will pay 10,000 talents of silver into the hands of those who do the work to bring it to the king's treasuries.'" So, I mean, that's anti-Semitism in the Bible, and it kind of really still exists today. But I'll get to that in a second. So essentially what is commemorated and how it's commemorated is that the principal ceremony of Purim is the reading of the Megillah, which is scroll in Hebrew, and the book of Esther is one of the 5 books that are called scrolls that are read on different Jewish holidays. The other 4 being Song of Solomon, Ruth, Lamentations, and Ecclesiastes. So the book of Esther is the best known of those 5 books, and it's read every Purim. And when they get to Mordecai's name, anytime Haman's name is mentioned, the people stomp their feet and they boo, and they have these noisemakers that they will, like, they're like little noisemakers, and they spin them around. It makes a really loud noise, and essentially that is signifying the blotting out of Haman's name for wanting to destroy the Jewish people. And then anytime Mordecai is mentioned, and I think even Esther, they'll cheer for their because they were instrumental in preserving the Jewish people. And it's also customary to send gifts to one another, and they'll also give gifts to the poor, and that's based on Esther 9:22, and I'll just read that for you really quick to give you some background. Esther 9:22 says, "As the days on which the Jews had rest from their enemies, as the month which was turned from sorrow to joy for them, and from mourning to a holiday, that they should make them days of feasting and joy, of sending presents to one another and gifts to the poor." So many times they'll send gifts to one another, to relatives, to friends. It's usually like pastries and fruits and nuts and cakes and real like nice treats and things like that. And then also children will often dress up too, which is really cute to see them dressing up. So they'll do that, and masquerades and things like that. So it's a real joyous time for them to celebrate their deliverance. And essentially the underlying principle is found in the Abrahamic covenant. You know, God says in Genesis chapter 12 that I'll make you a great nation. He tells to Abraham, promises to Abraham, I will make you a great nation, and I'll bless you and make your name great, and you shall be a blessing. And I will bless those who bless you, and I will curse him who curses you, and in you all the families of the earth shall be blessed. And so it's kind of this underlying, like, the way you treat the sons of Abraham is the way you treat the God of Abraham. And so it truly is, when you bless the people of God, the Jewish people, you're blessed. But when you curse them, you bring a curse upon yourself. And you know, I read this saying, and I think that it was good. You know, the path of anti-Semitism is a well-worn path that always leads to the destruction of its traveler. And it's true. You know, the Jewish people have suffered much over thousands of years. And I mean, can you think of any other people group that has been targeted, just a demonic target to literally wipe them off the face of the planet? And obviously the most recent being the Holocaust. You know, but it's still a huge issue today, obviously. You know, even with groups like Hamas in Gaza and Israel. Just today, there were 30 rockets fired into southern Israel from the Gaza Strip by Hamas jihadists. And, you know, this is something that they are constantly dealing with. You know, Iran and many surrounding nations do not believe that they have a right to exist. And they would like nothing more than to wipe them off the face of the planet. And, you know, I think that Purim is another way that we can also understand that it's more than just, Purim helps us understand it's more than just a defeat of God's enemies. It's a deliverance of God's people. His hand is on his people. And we still can remember that today with the Feast of Purim. And perhaps it would also be maybe a reminder for us to pray for Israel and to pray for the peace of Jerusalem and to pray for the protection of the people in Israel, and that God would continue to deliver his people. And he always does. And we have evidence of it in the Bible and, of course, throughout the rest of history as the Jewish people continue to survive against all odds. So that's a little history about Purim that comes up on Saturday at sundown. Just thought I would share.